Okay, it's reporting again.
Okay, so we're gonna continue with, 122, 128 Wampanoag Road South for, filed by David Ross Associates for Robert LaPierre. They asked for a continuance.
Yep, talked to the guy on the phone, and, he said he's been working with his engineer to get everything out of the 30-foot especially, based on the comments from, last month, and we should expect to have them the 25th, so.
Okay. Someone like to make a motion to continue?
I'll make that motion with continuance.
To the 25th. Someone like a second?
Second.
Yeah.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Thank you, Norman.
I had to abstain as well.
Yep. The next, the Gardner Conservation Commission will hold a joint public hearing under MGL Chapter 131, Section 40 Wetlands Protection Act, the City of Gardner Wetlands Protection Ordinance on notice of intent filed by Ty and Bond on behalf of the City of Gardner and Trevor Beauregard for 130 Crystal Lake Drive, North Central Pathway Nature Trail Connector. Somebody here to represent?
Yep.
Come on up. Your name is?
Got Alex Backen and Seth Taylor.
You guys both signed in?
Yes.
Okay. Can no one see us? See that?
Yeah.
Okay.
I brought 11 by 17 copies of the plans. If that they're going to do.
Yeah, what was that?
Oh, okay. You're making me do this because I'm old.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Sure.
Thank you.
Did you get it? There we go. Look at that. Norman, can you see the screen okay? Enough to make it out?
One half. One stack, one stack.
Oh, it's because we're just messing with it over here.
I'll give you a brief intro and then Seth can kind of take it away. So Alex Backen and Seth Taylor with Ty and Bond. I'm the project manager working with Trevor in the Department of Planning and Community Development. This is for the North Central Pathway. They call it the Nature Trail Connector. It's a short piece of path that's critical to tie this whole kind of network together that the city's been working on for several years. Seth was a technical lead on the permit, so he'll give some overview on the application, on the plans, and then we can talk about various things like the alternatives analysis. Doug had provided some comments, which we did our best to incorporate in the revised drafts that we sent through. We can also discuss anything that the commission wants to dig into. So with that, I'll let Seth kind of step through, and we'll just go from there.
All right, thank you, Alex. So again, my name is Seth Taylor. I'm a wetland scientist with Ty and Bond. I did want to give you the certificate of mailing. Doug?
Yep.
Pass that down. Thank you. So the project is an extension of the North Central Pathway. There's an area in between Crystal Lake Cemetery and the western shores of Crystal Lake that we're looking to expand a multi-use trail. This will be a 10 to 12 foot wide trail, paved, handicap accessible, and it will be, it'll run through the forest and over to the old abandoned railway as it's developed into the rail trail. There were a couple complications that we discovered as we looked into the site. One, that under the Gardner Wetlands Protection Ordinance, there's a vernal pool in the area. It's a potential warm pool under natural heritage. And so there's going to be impact to the buffer zone of the vernal pool, and about, I believe it was 55 square foot area of impact to DPW, and 25 feet of which is going to be clearing on either side, and then 55 feet of impact directly from a culvert that's going to be installed. The reason, we can discuss the alternative as we go, is the reason why this specific path was chosen was because, as you're aware, probably that the National Grid has a substation that's right there. And so, we just simply couldn't site it closer to the substation. It's inherently dangerous, you know, I mean, adults obviously know not to go in there, but children, you're not even allowed to touch the fence on the outside. So we had to set it back into the forest a bit to provide for safety for the public.
How many feet off the fence are you now?
Do you know?
I don't know off the top of my head, but there's the enclosed substation.
Yeah.
National Grid wouldn't let us go through the driveway, that was plan number one, because it's all developed obviously. Then there's the wetland complex, so we're on the other side of the wetland. It's gotta be a good 150, 200 feet from the fence line.
Are you there where the old trail is now?
Yes,
That's what you're gonna get, the old trail.
yes, so that's right, so it's gonna be following 60% of the old trail, and then they're gonna have
Right.
to ford through, it didn't go through the wetland. And so it has to go down through, and that is the least impactful area of the wetland that we could find in that spot to pass the trail through. And so, you know, as we were kind of stating, there were alternatives that we were considering, moving here, moving there, and really this is the most feasible and least impactful area that we could find. And if you have the notices of it in front of you, we did lay out impact. I can read them all too. So there's the 100-foot buffer zone to the resource areas, 100-foot buffer zone to vernal pool, no disturbance zone of 0 to 30 feet, and a no build zone of 0 to 30 to 60 feet. Within the no disturbance zone, there's going to be a total of just over 7,000 square feet. 3,000 will be temporary from clearing, primarily shrubs, but there will be tree clearing involved in this. It's unavoidable as it's going through the forest. Once you leave the established trail, and then a portion of expanding the trail out to the 10 to 12 feet. There'll be 9,000 square feet total in the no build zone, and then 16,000 square feet in the buffer zone to BBW, 1,600 square feet in the buffer zone to vernal pool. 55 square feet of permanent impact to BBW from the actual pathway, and then 25 feet total on either side of the culvert for tree clearing. So like we said, we attempted to minimize impacts to the wetlands as much as we could. This was the least impactful with the fewest square feet of impact within the area. And again, that was designed to stay away from the substation. So
How many thousand square feet did you say total in the no build?
just
Right.
It's like 9,100 square feet.
Yeah,
the no build is 9,500 square feet. 9,100 square feet of permanent impact, 380 square feet of temporary impact. That's the no build, the 30 to 60.
You know, we've never let anything happen in no build, right?
Did you know that?
I did not know that.
Never happens.
Never.
That's-
Never happens.
Never happens,
That's a ton, yeah.
ever. I've been doing this for 15 years and never had it even 1 square foot.
Yep.
I'm not opposed to the project, I'm just saying, this is,
Yeah. How did we get there, right? So from the alternatives perspective, you know, plan A we alluded to was obviously to go through the National Grid driveway because it's paved and degraded and you go right through and then that's the end of it.
and they wouldn't let us?
They wouldn't let us. So they, you know, Trevor and I engaged with them and
There's slope issues there, and there's also, they don't want the public intermingling with their large vehicles and everything out of the site for maintenance. So it wouldn't be a good option.
so that was one. Another option was to just come down Park Street, but the road's pretty narrow and windy. There's not an obvious place to put a bike path there. You know, the houses aren't set super far back. So that was another option. A third was to go further into the forested parcel, get up closer to the country club and come back to Park Street. The difference there is, you know, while we're in the no build and near the vernal pool here, This all flows into the drain system actually, that flows into Crystal Lake. So the decision was made to kind of prioritize the ORW in Crystal Lake, and get into the buffer zones of this particular wetland complex, which happen to drain away from the lake. So, you know, from those alternatives, kind of exploring all those, not a good one in the bunch.
No.
But we simply arrived at this as being the best shot we had to get the path through this section.
And then, I know we're skipping around a little bit, but great presentation, it's well laid out. We all understand here at the table what we're trying to accomplish. I don't think anybody here is opposed to what the overall outcome is. I know Norman rides that all the time, he's online here. But the other thing that keeps coming back to me is, you're a wetland scientist, great education, know all about it, did a lot of research. When have you ever seen a wetlands that's about 10 feet wide make it? It doesn't work. We all know it's supposed to be more of a round type or
Right.
oblong or something, but a 10-foot rectangle going all the way down is just not suffice to a replication.
Yeah, so in that, of course we consider that, but in the performance standards of the Wetland Protection Act, you're supposed to mimic what you lose, including shape, which is long and linear, which is why we designed it in that way. We designed it per the guidelines of the Wetlands Protection Act.
I understand
To
that,
follow there to DEPs and.
but it doesn't, it doesn't survive when it does that, right? I mean, it's well documented that something that narrow and that long is a wetland, especially with the grades around it. I just don't see how it would make it. Is there any other way we could do this? Let's talk outside the box a little bit with some flexibility on our side. I've never had it work. I did some research on it myself at work. I just don't see it.
I mean,
Let me ask you a question.
Sure.
If you're standing where the path starts, you know, the driveway curves up and then the path starts right there.
Yep.
How far down that path do you wanna cut it, approximately? How far down are you gonna be on the old path?
about 750 feet.
Okay. And then you're gonna cut to the left.
And the second half, essentially split right down the middle, so then the
Yeah.
second half would just have to be
Yeah.
forded and turned away. To the point about the wetland mitigation area, I would think, from my experience, is that as long as you're taking an established existing wetland and you're expanding it out more, your hydrology is guaranteed, right? So you don't have to create new hydrology.
Guaranteed.
Mostly guaranteed. You're pulling it in from an existing,
Right.
established hydrology. Yeah.
Let's go way outside the box,
Yeah.
right? Is there another place we can replicate?
That's what I was gonna ask.
Like, not here.
Right.
Where else? We've done that before. Let's all agree to that.
So that was, if we as a commission say, we don't want that linear feature, we want a real wetlands complex somewhere else, could you do that?
What were your thoughts, Alex?
Well, you've kind of got the two lobes of that big wetland. I mean, would you just like to see something a little more rounded coming off that, expanding that a little more naturally?
Or somewhere else, right? We don't have to replicate here.
Right, it has to be within a watershed.
There's 4,000 acres of land that the city owns.
Yeah.
So, you
We've
know,
done that before.
Is that within the watershed, specific to?
I don't know, I mean,
some of
that's,
it is, some of it isn't.
yeah, I don't know that exactly.
Yeah, 'cause that DEP, that's what DEP requires in wetland mitigation, to do it off-site, it has to be within the watershed. In the basin that it's, I mean, it actually, I'm not even.
Well, can't we say that we agree to doing it somewhere else though? I mean, we've done that before. Right, Duncan, we've done that.
But,
No,
you know,
On a river.
right. That's right.
On a river.
the problem I have with it, that path has been there for 50 years, right? And it shouldn't have been there for 50 years. It's right next to our drinking water. This is crazy. I'm not saying that all the bikers are gonna stop and pee in the pond or anything like that, really. But let's be realistic, it shouldn't be there, period. So, I don't want it to be improved, I want it not to be done, period. And we've never given it, nobody's ever built in any of the replica zones that we have. We don't do it. Now, like the chairman said, if you're gonna go through the wetland, make us a wetland someplace else.
Can we go over it?
So we explored spanning, so it's like a, it's like a 2-foot wide hydraulic connection between that bigger red
Yeah.
swamp and then the lower area. We explored spanning it. The concern is there's definitely some rocky outcroppings up there. So I'm just concerned with, running into ledge if you start really trying to dig. Most of the design is a fill design. It'll take a little bit of the overburden and then build up the section because you're trying to avoid getting into rock. So if I gotta put, like, we wanted to do like micro piles and put like a little timber bridge over, like that was my ideal. And I'm just not convinced I'm gonna be able to get the micro piles in the ground because I'm gonna hit refusal.
What about that floating map that you pinned?
Just like a timber mat system.
Yeah, I've seen that, in Maine, and actually at Mount A Dam. Yeah, they have it across like a bog, and it worked unbelievable.
Yeah.
They actually had wires, and it was on the wires, and it was pinned at the ends, and it went right across the wetlands, and it was unbelievable. There's no replication or anything. I actually enjoyed it, I thought it was pretty neat.
Yeah, I saw it, yeah.
Yeah.
So it's stable, like if you're on.
Yeah, it's stable, it's just everything's kind of on 2 guy wires that are almost on the ground. And you walk across almost like a footbridge, but you're like, it's literally floating across the bog.
Is it wood?
I thought it was
I think
something,
it is.
yeah, like almost like a Trex type. Yeah, it was pretty neat.
So we did
I
take.
think that's where I saw it.
We took a bike path approach to this, if you will. So that's why you got a culvert in there and the 10-foot paved path going over the top, because in theory, you got people on bikes kind of cruising through. So if we introduce a feature like that, there'd have to be, other features to, you're not gonna wanna bomb with that on your bike necessarily, especially if somebody's.
I would.
I would too, but if you're.
Let me do it like this. Did you do a traffic study? I mean, how many people are gonna use it?
Well, they use it now.
Well,
Well, Norman, how many people are out that way on their bikes when, prime season?
There are a lot of people on their bikes out there.
oh, yeah,
And between biking and walking, it's unbelievable.
Yeah, that's what I
And
thought.
the cars going through the cemetery alone, it's unbelievable.
I'd say do that, no, I don't have a number for you in terms of the
No, I-
projected user, but that corridor, that north central pathway corridor that ultimately right now is up in the center of Winchendon, the goal is to get it to the center of Gardner. The state's behind it, everybody's behind it, they're gonna put the overpass on Route 140 and then improve from there down to this location. This just became a gap because of National Grid, unfortunately, so the usage, is there in the opinion of the state, in the opinion of, I think, people that use the path, so.
Go ahead, Coach.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Just another option we looked at also was to go through a portion of the Watkins plot up on top of the hill. And unfortunately, they weren't agreeable to that.
Oh.
That would have allowed us to avoid
Oh, yeah.
the current trail that we're taking.
Right.
But they were not open to that option. It would have been a minimal portion of their plot. We would have to move their fence over a little bit, but we couldn't make that work. So that's why we ended up, this was our last option, actually.
Yeah, because we can't get out of the cemetery. We wanted to get out the back corner where it scoots down to the substation, and
Yeah.
Grid said no.
Yeah.
And then we wanted to get out by the Watkins. There's a spot where there's no headstones, there's no plots, you can sneak around the fence, and they said no. Then we ended up on the city land down by the lake.
So who said no at Grid?
Your community reps, Steve and
Yeah, and
Pete.
Brown, yeah.
Who?
So I have the 2 people
Byram?
with, it's Varam, or is it Byram? Yeah, I thought it was Varam, but,
Yeah.
and Steve, with Steve's,
Towel.
yeah. So basically, the topography back there is too steep, for one thing. It'd have to be a tiered switchback from the rear of that cemetery, and then we'd have to go through the paved drive where they access their substation site with their large vehicles, and they just don't want that. And I can't blame them, I don't think it's a safe option for the residents either.
Can you send me the communication you have with V? Just to see.
Yeah, I don't know what it's gonna tell you, but yeah, I can.
I've got a relationship with V, done a lot of work with V over the years, maybe, I don't know.
Yeah, I don't think it's his.
Yeah, somebody else, but
Yeah,
there's a couple of people that cost us above him.
it's gonna,
I just figured, try.
I'll have to dig, goes pretty far back, Rick, so.
Yeah, I'll just call Lee. Okay, yeah, I just don't like the idea of, first of all, that's a disturbance to get a path. I mean, we're creating damage to the environment to support people enjoying the environment, so.
Plus you're right on a wall, water.
Yeah, along Crystal Lake.
Right. Really, I mean, it's like, you know,
But Duncan, it's no different than the other side.
I know, either way, it should be, we shouldn't be there, period, I'm not saying we're gonna
Yeah.
move it, but I mean, we shouldn't be there. In fact, you know, maybe the golf course shouldn't be there, I mean, there's a lot, you know, it's all been done since you know, way before any of us were on this commission, or there was a commission.
What are your thoughts?
Looks like, I mean, if we're talking about potential alternate areas for wetland replication, looks like, I think, if I had my kind of bearing right, like off the northeast corner of the lot that Grid has a station on, they're, you know, like adjoining the southern wetland, like here.
Oh, right here?
Yes. It looked like a kind of like, I think that would be a good area for, you know, the larger replication. It looked like actually a lot of it was kind of full of, like knotweed. It was hard to tell because it was all, you know, husked out. But, if we're looking for that kind of a globular, yeah, if we're looking for a kind of globular, you know, chunk style.
Yeah, I'd want something more like liver shaped or something that's not so.
You could probably get a lot of square footage, filling in up there. I mean, even just between the, you know, the green of that kind of forest and there. I mean, I think there's a lot of.
Leave that up there.
The
Property between
that
the
span,
substation and the Watkins spot, it looks all forested. Who owns that?
City.
Who?
The city?
The city, but the problem is, Duncan, all that,
Pretty steep.
well, it's pretty steep, but all along the roadway there in the cemetery, those are all grave sites. You can't get through there. Like, there's no access through that portion of the cemetery, because it's all grave sites.
Up in the top of Watkins?
From the Watkins plot all the way down to the
Okay.
Arch
You
Street,
think they would complain?
there's no opening.
Oh.
Well, people cut through the Napoleon Club parking lot and
Yeah,
go into
right.
the cemetery from there. That is a pounded path. People do that all the time.
They were doing that when they were building the substation, right?
Yeah.
We had complaints, remember?
Yeah.
I just don't like that we're gonna just do that much damage to make a path. While some of it's already there.
Yeah, I will say the current alignment you got that we gave you on those plans.
Yeah.
Is from, we went, it was 3-4 months ago, we went out there, I had one of my engineers, I had one of Seth's colleagues in the wetland science team, we GPSed as many additional trees as we could, because the survey had trees in it as well. And we actually bent that path a lot more to get around and preserve as much veg as we could out there. You know, so yeah, you're still cutting trees and clearing shrubs, but we made that last attempt to, you know, preserve as much existing veg as we could.
We're back on the old path, right? Now where you leave it, leave the paved thing, you know, on the path, right? It's steep. You know, it's steep, you know, going up. Now as you go, that comes down. How far?
Oh, it's like a fall line
So
back
we're not
into.
dropping, right before it starts dropping down, we're turning and going into the hill at that point, which curves kind of into that wooded area you were talking about, the end of the Watkins plot.
Yeah.
And there's actually another old trail back there that I think probably, that's the one we can't get access to because of the cemetery plots. And we're crossing that, following it for maybe 100 feet or so, and then curving into the sensitive area that we've been talking about.
And then you're into the old railroad bed.
And, well, yeah, between the railroad bed and like the Watkins plot, that's really the area where you know, build, we gotta cross that, that's where all the problems are. I mean, being next to the lake is its own issue, I understand that, but that's where we're proposing to cut that trail through those sensitive areas, between the railroad bed and kind of the Watkins plot.
And there's ledge in there, you don't wanna get into the ledge, I don't blame you.
Yeah, I don't wanna.
Cause you get in Gardner, you get in the ledge, you got water.
Yeah.
Big time.
Plus, it's just more disruptive, I start hammering ledge back
Oh, yeah,
there.
start
and
hammering away
shaking
at
the
it.
heck out of everything.
Yeah, next to that substation too.
No.
I have one other question, going back to when you started your presentation. you says there's a potential vernal pool there. Is it a vernal pool or is it not a vernal pool?
Right, so under the Gardner bylaw ordinance, it's a vernal pool. Under the Wetlands Protection Act, or natural heritage really,
Has it been
it
certified?
has not been certified.
Doesn't need to be certified.
They do.
It doesn't need to be
Tick
certified.
categories.
David brought this up a long time ago, it doesn't need to be certified for us to treat it as such.
Correct, under your ordinance, it's a vernal pool.
Yeah. And that's how we treated it when we were, that it was essentially a certified.
You must have known you were gonna get some pushback on this. So did you know, what did you come up with for an alternative?
I mean, we kinda had those stepped alternatives, so, you know, number one was going through National Grid.
That was out, cause
That's
then,
out because of them and their security and operational concerns. We looked at coming down Park Street itself, it's just not a good corridor for biking between the vertical grades, between the curves and the narrowness of the road. So then we looked at coming out by the Watkins plot on that, you know, on that part of the trail. We looked at going deeper into this parcel, of course, that would have put us along the lake longer. And then, you know, this was kind of the last ability to connect the cemetery plot back over the old railroad corridor, because that's really what we're trying to do, is get from the cemetery over the railroad corridor.
now, looking at, standing in the road there, looking down the road bed,
Yep.
right? Toward the substation. There's a lot of wetlands in there. It's wet.
So if you go, like, basically if you're standing in the cemetery, right, railroad's on my left, and water's on my right,
Yeah.
like, until you get to the substation, that's all wet. So we avoided that. I think when I first came out a few years ago, we were looking at this and we decided we had to go through the cemetery, because that's all kind of become the drainage for the rest of the area.
Yeah, you can see on this figure how it avoided the wetlands as much as possible. I mean, it literally goes around. But there's no way to avoid it going through, you know, the middle, because it's connected.
Yeah, that hydraulic connection, that skinny thing we have to cross. So the red maple swamp to the north is higher, and when it fills up during the wet season, it flows down towards the lower wetland. There's a lot of grade change there. So the lower wetland never flows up to the red maple swamp, which is why it's not part of Crystal Lake's watershed. Because
It flows toward the railroad bed.
It flows towards the.
Because there's a
culvert that
there's
goes,
a big 4-foot culvert in there, it's an old,
and it disappears into the drain system.
Right,
basically.
yeah.
So yeah, we're intentionally below that elevation because we didn't want to impact that red maple swamp, because now we're impacting the ORW, which is the water supply.
We had a lot of issues with that wetland spot right here when we were building the grid.
Yeah.
That was a big bone of contention.
I mean, if you go out there, you can tell that they made a mess of it too in the corner.
Oh, I know.
Yeah. I mean, frankly, from their clearing practices, there's logs and stumps and things piled on the edge of that wetland as well.
At one point, we just told them to stop.
Yeah.
We figured let it just take itself.
Right, take a natural course.
Yeah.
Did you guys get a chance to look at the slope of the 24-inch culvert?
So I know that was a concern, so I think it's like 8.3 or 8.5. So the reason it's that steep is because that's what that channel is through there. You know, basically we just match the top and the bottom. If we start decreasing the slope of that, you know, we're gonna have to dig in to get the inlet, and we're gonna have to have a perched outlet on that thing. So really to preserve that course, we wanted to match the slope. Now, what we didn't do was put a big riprap splash pad at the bottom, because again, we were trying to minimize the work. But obviously, we also need to prevent any erosion in that channel, you know, encouraging erosion in that channel washing towards the wetland. So we could do some better outlet protection on the downstream end if that's really the concern.
is that running right now?
I don't know if it's running right now. You were out last week.
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
How much flow is there?
It's not
You
much.
sent me a picture of that one?
I did.
Yeah, there's a fair amount.
Wet
More than I
season,
thought.
I imagine it flows good in wet season.
Yeah, we have no snowpack this year, so it's gonna be less.
I remember that now, yeah. So the culvert slope is an issue, right? I mean, what about amphibians getting up that slope? No problem.
Well, I mean, it's just matching the natural thing. I mean, we could put a 36-inch barrel in there and bury it, you know, and.
Well, we're supposed to bury, 2 feet anyways, right?
If we're going through there.
That's what the code is for culvert replacement. Install, right? 2 feet
Stream
down
crossing,
there.
it gets hit or miss on stream crossing standards, and that's not a stream, so.
Yeah, well,
It kind of becomes,
I know, great.
but we can oversize, and that way you have natural substrate at the bottom.
18-inch, I think.
Yeah.
that would give you, you know, that would give critters like some grip to walk on,
Yeah.
so it's not a slick bottom of a pipe. Cause they get slimy over time too, it's just,
Yeah, they can't make it.
So,
well, slimy.
They only got three toes per leg anyway, so they're lucky they have 4. That's what Scott
Now, you're not
Jackson
saying
said,
much.
by the way.
so what are you thinking?
Scott Jackson.
What are you thinking?
About which aspect?
Oh,
We went over a lot. Yeah, I mean, the oversized culvert would, especially if you know, if it's large enough, the amphibians would move through, but they'd also move around it. I mean, you know, if it's already steep, they don't care about that, you know, they're slow, they'll get through it. The wetland replication area, I can understand not wanting to have a long linear one. We did that because that's what the Wetland Protection Act requires. But they can be, I mean, that's your decision, not mine, but
That's fine.
but it can be redesigned to better suit, you know, theoretical wetland replication.
This is all gonna be paved?
So they,
This
that's
is gonna be
wide, yeah,
Why are we going so wide?
that's the minimum for a shared use path, is 10 feet.
Is it 10 feet wide on the other side? Behind the hospital?
No,
I didn't think so.
no.
Is it 8 over there?
No.
It could be even 8 or 6.
Yeah.
Probably
It narrows down, opens up, opens up.
The new path coming out,
No, but I think it was supposed to be 10 feet wide.
Okay.
As I go down.
He's the one that's on the water, yeah. He's on that trail all the time.
Yeah, he is.
yeah, I'll tell you from Park Street North, the DOT project that will be coming in eventually, that'll be 10.
Yeah.
And that'll be to their standard. This part is more city controlled, so it's a little bit more up, but 10 is the standard. And if you're encouraging that bike traffic, that's so 2 bikes can go by each other without clipping handlebars and wiping out.
Well, how much less would the impact be if we went 8 in these areas, some of these areas?
I mean, we can run numbers, it's,
Is it gonna gain us much?
well, it's what, a 20% reduction
Yeah.
in paved width. You gotta remember, you got a little bit of stabilized shoulder on either side. too.
Right.
You know, so maybe it's a 10% reduction in those impact areas.
You said on this top here, there's no way to go up and out of this right here? Is it?
Higher.
Yeah, just in that one little.
Just to
Between the
avoid-
orange line.
So when I was out there, I know where it's delineated with that red maple swamp.
Talk about right here, Norman.
The topography up there, and then there's
That's right.
a bunch of pockets in the ground where probably old tree throws and stuff. And it just, I don't know, we basically tried to lay it into where we felt it was most stable. You know, it kind of at that point a little bit regardless of the protection there, because I felt like if we pushed closer to that red maple, we were probably starting to tip the grade towards the ORW. And we also just tried to put it where we felt it was gonna be founded best through there.
I think you can.
When you leave the original trail, you're gonna, how much of a grade is it?
So it's actually not bad, it's on the profiles, and we had surveyed that, so those are real grades, those aren't LiDAR. I was actually surprised, because the first time I walked it with Trevor, I think we went all the way down in the hole, and so I'm looking up at this hill like this, and I'm like, how are we gonna do anything here? But where we curled off, kind of just past the Watkins plot, and it's not that bad. It's
Really?
It's 4.5% maybe for a short stretch, and then it flattens back out. So 5 being kind of your max that you would go.
Yeah.
You know, I guess the overarching comment too is like, we know this is a big ask. Your ordinance, for a variance says, you know, it's gotta be for public benefit basically, and that's the case we're making, that this is a critical section of this overall trail network. And that the public benefit's there, that there's demonstrated use of other parts of this trail, and we believe it will be used, you know, once it's implemented. You know, all the comments you made tonight are incredibly valid in terms of, you know, even kind of the irony of trying to, you know, clear nature for people to enjoy. I understand all of that, there's no doubt. I didn't wanna come through here, you know, my job would be a lot easier if I could come in and say I got a buffer zone RDA and off we go, but you know.
Well, when you said public, and I agree, this is something that, it's a little different. It's not like someone wants to put a shed up or a driveway or build a house. This is truly for the public. It's not somebody's private use.
But, we gotta protect our wetlands.
Yeah, and I keep thinking, you know, we're putting pavement down
This-
and
It's
basically
like
letting it
television.
run down into the
Yeah,
wetland, into
yeah.
the Crystal Lake. I guess I would say is come back with a couple other options and research coming with some matting or better replication area and try to kind of modify this path if it's even feasible. Up and around, anything we can get out of,
Yeah.
even if it's minimal, and if,
I'm happy to look at that crossing, look at the matting options. I mean, I can kind of present the alternatives more clearly that we've run through in terms of the trail alignment, just so that everybody has them, but, you know, we have explored trying to get around this thing, and, I mean, it's kind of rock and hard place.
Norman, do you have anything else?
No,
I was gonna ask him the same.
Yeah, 'cause I mean, he
Yeah.
rides it every day. So, anybody else on the commission have any questions or comments? Nothing yet? Anybody in the audience?
Yes.
State your name, please.
Dave Antaya.
Hi, David, how you doing?
Good. Could you just go back one, where you had yes, on that one. I was curious, when you're coming up from the cemetery and you're coming across and you're coming down, how come you're coming so far back on the trail?
Where do you mean when you're coming down and across?
Well,
I
if-
guess it's big.
If you could kind of move it over to the left,
Towards,
where it connects by Park Street.
To the railroad.
Oh, yeah, why we're hooking all the way back around like that?
Yeah, so why is it kind of coming all the way around and not kind of dropping a little more straight down? Because you're gonna be going to the right, I believe.
You are.
And so if you could do something there, could replication occur in that area if you were to decrease coming back so far towards or on Park Street?
So this spot kills the engineer in me, because I agree we're going to the right and we're trying to steer people away from the substation, but what happens here is the railroad grade is steadily dropping as you go up that plan sheet, and your landform is staying about the same, if not increasing a little bit along the power line. So every couple feet I go towards Park Street, which it makes sense to go that way, my grades are diverging like this. And
which is not good.
within a few feet, I'm already getting into having to do some kind of switchback to get down that embankment. And again, there's a lot of rocky outcrops up there, so we're concerned that would be, expensive rock excavation to make it happen. Because, ultimately, the city has a grant and there's financial constraints to, try to design this as well.
So would the switchback be more expensive than the way that you're going now, just to get down to that, so that you could, I'm looking to kind of clear that area if it could be for replication as they're looking.
Yeah, no, and I, that is an area that probably would be decent for replication, but the problem is grid goes up there to get on their lines anyway. So we really use National Grid's driven access, because we know no matter what we do, they're gonna use that anyway. So if you tried to replicate wetland there, they would
There's
just,
a swamp right over it.
they'll just go right over it, and so.
I mean, I don't know, I had kids that used to drive that once in a while, that other paths on trails and stuff. Switchbacks are, Norman could speak to this probably better than any of us. Switchbacks on a bike, little kids, dangerous.
Dangerous as hell.
Even in adults.
Yeah.
I mean, when you get up there and you can't control, and you got somebody coming the other way, and you're both trying to navigate a switchback. I'm not a huge mountain bike person, but Norman, what do you think of switchbacks?
What's going on?
put that,
A switchback on the trail to cut around.
yeah, I agree with what you just said.
Yeah. So I guess it's, with the grade, the grade changes there, the only way you could do it. Plus it'd be tight.
But they're still gonna be coming down kind of fast
So you've got,
to catch on to the trail.
you've got 150 feet or something where you're coming down, at, I think it's a 4% grade on the profile or something. And then you're coming and you'd have to turn and get on the main trail once it happens. It's gonna be signed and marked as a stop condition coming off the top of the hill and coming down through the grid, because it really does kind of tee up. Frankly, we're proposing to plant a bunch of vegetation just opposite of it, so if your kid goes a little bit errant, they're hitting a shrub and not continuing into a drainage ditch on the other side, but.
Some nice rose bushes would be great.
Those, yeah,
People out.
I know when, you know, the way it is right now, of course, everybody's using where National Grid don't wanna do it, but when you get to the end of it and you get down that was a real concern, and they made that longer.
Yep.
And cut it back.
Yeah, if you're coming out of their yard, the culvert, right,
Right,
it kind of
yeah,
drops right
exactly.
down, and, yeah.
At one time, it was like, real,
They stretched it out.
Go ahead, Trevor.
Thanks, Mr. Chairman. Can I ask the engineer a question as far as what the conservation is looking for, what your turnaround would be to bring something back to them? I mean, would you be able to get it back for the next meeting, or? And the only reason why I ask, and this isn't, I'm not saying this, I just want to inform you, I'm not saying it to get a quicker response or action from the commission, but the grant money needs to be spent by June 30th. Now, I know we're not gonna do that because I'm 4 to 5 months behind at staff turnovers, and this did not proceed on their original timetable. But the more we can get spent this fiscal year, because the state budgets our grant within the fiscal year, and any carryover into the next fiscal year, we're not guaranteed that money. So, and this is not, I'm not placing this burden on the commission, because we're not gonna spend the entire money. But the more money we can spend this year, the better. So I'm just wondering if that's something that engineers would be able to do for next meeting.
Yeah, you know, if we're talking about researching that crossing and reworking that wetland replication area, and maybe just better describing those other alternates we explored, you know, maybe in a bit of a narrative format with some sketches, that I can do for the next meeting.
Okay.
I'll have it done for next week so we can get it back on the agenda.
Go ahead.
I had a question, so, what, is there anything flagged out there right now?
Yep.
Cause you took photos, but I
Yeah,
haven't
yeah.
walked it, but
To the southern portion really, I think
lawn, crystal,
closer to the, substation, like all
Oh.
those 15, you know,
Oh, the 15
72,
days.
82, yeah, so.
what about the pathway from the trail along the lake up?
I think
Is any of that flagged?
It doesn't
some of
look like
those,
Okay, I was just
I
curious.
mean, I can find them.
That's all right, those are probably what I'm watching.
But the ones to the southern leg that look, you know, was accurate to my judgment. Yeah. Even during the rain, it was good.
So I'm gonna ask the commission to do their research, and if you can get out there and walk it. In the meantime, it's not really a public walk, but I'm just gonna do some due diligence on your ideas and your thoughts, what we proposed today to make this work. That it is for the public, and be prepared for the 25th. Would someone like to make that motion to continue the hearing until March?
I'll make that motion.
Someone like a second, all in favor?
Aye.
Thank you, Norm.
If you're standing on the road, looking down the right away toward the bridge, where do you come on down there, how far down?
Well, if you're standing on Park Street looking back towards the substation, you almost gotta get to the substation.
Okay.
Right after that culvert we were talking about,
Yeah.
go right and go right up the hill there. That's where we're sleeping.
Okay, the hearing's closed, so
Thank you.
thank you. Thank you.
Thanks.
Next under new businesses, nothing, old business is a notice of intent for 143 Colony Road. Project entails the extension of the existing storage facility with 7 storage containers, 4 of which are located within the buffer zone of a bordering vegetated wetland. This is a continuance on the 25th, and it says approved and sent to tie-in bond waiting for report.
Yeah, so
Fieldstone?
yeah, I sent the note to proceed to, Time Bond, and they're looking to get someone out there this week. I reached out to Fieldstone to see if they could contact the owner or a property manager, due to it being a storage facility, obviously it's going to be locked and there's
Yeah.
fences and gates, so I wanted to, make sure that the specialist was able to get out there on site, and I intend to go on site as well that same day to check in and see if there's any findings or anything I could add or just discern myself. So that's forthcoming.
Should we push it to the 25th? I think we should go to April 3rd or April 8th.
Push it to The 25th, just to,
March 25th?
just to,
Just do you think that's enough time, just to keep it moving?
yeah, just keep it moving.
Okay, so I'd like to continue the hearing for 143 Colony Road till March 25th.
Motion made.
Someone like to second that
I'll
motion?
second it.
All in favor?
Aye.
I have to abstain.
Yeah,
Yes.
thank you, Norman. No update yet on 170 Mill Street?
Nope, same as last time, just kinda
Leaking
things
more,
locked up.
it's leaking more.
Is it?
More, is
All the
it?
boards are really leaking now, yeah.
Why don't we draft up another letter and send another letter out? Want to send to me to review, I'll review it, or send it out to the commission. So,
Also send it, we were sending them to the Corps of Engineers.
yeah, and
They're
mass dam safety.
involved with that too.
Yeah, so let's get ready to have a draft done and vote on signing and sending out on March 25th. Got enough time?
Perfect, I'll call it tomorrow.
So we're gonna continue this hearing until March 25th, someone like to make that motion.
Oh, wait, now what's the stop?
We're gonna continue the hearing for 170.
I'll make that motion.
Yeah.
Someone like to second it?
Second.
Aye.
All in favor?
Aye.
I have to abstain.
Yep. Thank you, Norm. The next one is MACC conference attendance. Doug?
Yeah, I just wanted to, like, that was, cause I submitted that like the
Yeah.
day after and, you know, wanted to,
Did you guys get paid?
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, no, it was good,
Oh, yeah.
Greg and I went to.
Doug's not a very good
class.
student in class.
Yeah,
Same.
I graduated.
No, we both basically took almost all different classes except for two.
Yeah, the first and last. I think it
Yeah, there was one about ordinance, review of our ordinance. And there was, whose was the oldest in our group, and we were kind of gathered up with Central Mass. There, Winchendon and a couple other local towns, that was kind of interesting. And I think overall our ordinance was pretty good.
No, yeah, 100%.
Was it as crowded as usual?
I'd say it was probably
Yeah,
more.
More? Yeah,
Yeah, the last time you and I went?
yeah,
Definitely.
wall people,
Yeah.
yeah.
Took some classes on culverts and protecting wildlife habitat. And then Doug and I both took something on drones.
Yep, yeah, the last one, just kind of general.
No, where are we on the drones then?
Still just kind of, like I would need to take the class, and just found the time to do that and kind of wanted to,
Yeah,
you know, take my time with the process, I guess, and not, you know.
I think we need to get some input from the city solicitor
Yeah.
to see if it's legal, because we tried to ask some questions about it, and I don't think the class was very dialed into what we were there for. We got some good information out of it, and who to use to get, data processed at a decent price.
There's a lot to it, like the
Yeah,
different company.
I just talked to my neighbor, for instance, any drones you have, they can fly them at night. And you also have a data recording device.
Yeah, we learned all about that.
Yeah,
Yeah, tracking.
yeah, tracking device, yeah.
Yeah,
The black
so
box, whatever.
we're gonna do some more research and then come back. We're both, I think I'm open to it still, but I think we need to get some
Definitely,
the legalities of it still.
definitely a useful tool.
Yeah, I wouldn't even say, we didn't get really good knowledge of, can we fly up over and look somebody else's area? And then it was brought up, well, what's the difference between knocking on a neighbor's door and asking for permission to walk down their property to view another property? So that was something that we need to get, John Flick involved, the city solicitor.
Different philosophies
Yeah,
Yeah.
that people have to using them.
but we've all hiked, many of us in this room have hiked to areas that some other of us couldn't get to. So I think in that situation, if Doug goes out and flies over city property like this property,
Yeah.
and flies over it and then presents it to us to make determinations, that would be really helpful. And like we talked about that other property on the other side of town, Old
Yeah.
40, and some kettle ponds that we've all kind of hiked, that would be some good information to gather. So. But we learned a lot.
Yeah,
I think it was well worth going, and on that note, I'd like to make a motion to approve some funds, let's just say $250 to get Corinne involved with MACC and those fundamental classes. So I'd like to make that motion for,
I'll make
I think
that motion.
250 is probably enough to start.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
I should probably abstain from that.
You can't vote on that, yeah. Norman, did you get us on that?
Vote on the other meeting.
Hold on.
He's on cell phone.
Norman, we just voted on some funds, $250 to have Corinne start up with the MACC and those fundamental classes. Are you a yes vote or a no vote?
He's on a cell phone. So
We still have enough to vote,
Oh, there.
we still have enough to pass it,
Yeah.
I would like to get. Let's consider it as approved, we have enough votes in the room. And our upcoming meeting is March 25th, anybody have any new business?
Yeah, what is it? Well, I already forgot what it was. Oh, I talked to the city engineer.
Yep.
About that. The sludge landfill.
Oh, yeah.
The walk we had with the state. He said nothing's been done, and he believes that they're waiting for MIPA to make a decision, and then the state will jump in, or whatever.
Okay.
But right now, it's still in the air. I mean, it's only been 7 months, so what that,
Yeah, yeah, it's a big decision, okay, anybody else have any other new business?
No.
Go ahead.
I took some pictures around Manka Drive. I sent it to the guys in email. I have them on email. I can show you, Duncan.
Yeah.
And just based on the way the water sat, like just right after the rain, I would say the current delineation, whatever that brook is, that runs east to west, just south of the DPW properties.
What is that?
Yeah, I don't know either.
Pew Brook, is that Pew?
Oh, that is
Brook,
Pew,
I think
yeah,
it is,
yeah, because we had issues, remember, we had to redo some of that.
I would
We
say.
just see what, make sure that we're, past the ball field, the old ball field, we wouldn't know, past the Chevy dealer,
Yeah.
and there's a little culvert right there,
Pond Brook.
but it's Pew though, isn't it, coming off of it?
Pew's one of them, yeah, they're
Let me
intersecting.
see. Yeah, is that what you're talking about?
Yep.
So it is,
But yeah, I would say the current delineation is not accurate to the extent of the wetlands on either side. Like I sent you guys in the picture, you can see they're in the water, they're in, that's
so we're gonna reach out and have them reflag?
yeah, the standard is, mean, like, annual high water mark, and then, bump it out a hair or whatever.
Yep.
Much appropriate, and then you go from there, but it looks like, there was like 3, 4, 5 feet of water past where the current flags are, so that changes things.
Was the culvert backed up?
It was just like during the rain Thursday,
Yeah,
You probably backed up some.
well, that's what I'm worried about, that culvert's probably, we put a new one in, long, what, 4 or 5 years?
Yeah, a
More?
while ago.
Was it more? Before Adder Field was gone, right?
4 years ago.
Yeah,
and I was sitting like that too,
okay.
even after it started to slow down. I was there in the afternoon.
So you reached out to have them reflagged?
No, I just wanted to bring it here first, because that was
Yeah, I think,
Thursday.
yeah.
So
I guess reach out and tell them they gotta reflag it and give them your reasons why. And then you talked about the, OOCs, that list.
yeah, I'm currently working with, the EP. Looks like there are some, open, empty spots, like, in terms of documentation for orders of conditions and certificates of compliance that haven't been sent to them for, maybe 7, 8, 9 projects kind of sprinkled in the past couple of years, so I'm just working with them kind of to fill that in, make sure they get it and have it on file. I'm currently in the process of doing that.
Just let us know before you finalize any of those cases, because some of those could have implications.
Yeah, I'm not sending in anything that isn't already, like, at the registry and checking,
Yeah.
like, at the registry.
Okay.
Yeah, you got
Signed,
it, yeah, I got one too.
order of conditions, and then I'm saying, okay, do you have this one? It's at the registry, why don't you write it, and, send them in that.
Some of these I remember, and they're not that long ago.
Yeah.
Are we still doing new business?
Yep.
Or old, whatever?
Yeah.
What's the latest on Parker Street, Parker's Pond?
What one?
Parker's Pond, the back side of it. They were gonna do the work, they decided they weren't gonna do work. Are they gonna?
Which one, the land trust?
The other side of Parker's Pond,
Yeah.
right? Where they had the project and the guy went belly up,
Yeah.
right?
Oh, the condos you talking about?
No.
I don't remember, I'm sorry.
We just had it aboard
Keys Road?
Keys Road.
Oh,
Keys
okay.
Road, okay.
No, that's
Keys
done.
Road, right.
I'm sorry.
What's the latest there?
Nothing, they're done.
Yeah, I called Alan on that.
We gave him the pot, and it's, you know, I haven't heard back, so.
I talked to Alan Russo, I'll fill you in after.
Alright.
Anybody else have anything new?
No.
Anybody in the audience have anything? Someone like to make a motion to end tonight's hearing?
Motion made.
Someone like to second that motion?
I'll second it, no, let her second it.
I'll second it.
All in favor?
Aye.
Good to go.
Aye.
Thank you, Norman.
Oh,